right, good afternoon. Oh. Good afternoon, everyone. We have a great session today on reentry and workforce. And we have a special, before we get started, we have some special guests here. I wanted to introduce Shay Zorber with Flagger Force. She's, I believe, Workforce Relations Manager. And we also have Luke Lazar with Flagger Force. He's VP of Risk and Safety. And these are their employers, reentry employers. They have we can get their feedback from employers standpoint if need be. Also, we have Josh Strickler, another special guest. He's a project manager for Diplomat Demolition, and he has a lot of positive feedback as an employer as well with reentry workforce. See, is Lamont in here? So then, without further ado, the main guest today is the Department of Corrections, Dorenda Hamarlund, and she's the Workforce Development Specialist with the DOC. And then also Terry Fazio, and she's chief, I believe she's Chief of Correction Education. And without further ado, let's hand it over to Dorenda.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get in here and share my screen. And we have tested this, so hopefully it works. All right, so good afternoon, everybody. Get my slideshow going. There we go. So thank you guys for hopping on here today and participating. I am Dorenda Hamarlund. I'm the Workforce Development Specialist with the Pennsylvania State Department of Corrections. And I'm really excited and grateful to have the opportunity today to talk with everybody, let you guys know what we do in corrections and how I can hopefully maybe help you as an employer get some more employees. So I'm going to go ahead and pop through here, give a little bit of background on who I am and what I do with Department of Corrections. So a lot of what I do is educate the public, employers, other Commonwealth agencies on what we do. We do a lot in the State Department of Corrections, and unfortunately, a lot of the public is not aware of what we do. And so that is what my role is to share the great work that we're doing. And hopefully at the end of this presentation today, you'll have a better understanding about what we do offer for inmates and reentrants, and especially in the workforce side and the reentry piece of it. A big part of what I do is working with employers to fill any of their workforce needs. And, and then with doing that, I share the employment opportunities with our staff, so then that way they can share it with any of the population that they are working with. So this is probably something that isn't necessarily news to you if you're an employer. Unemployment rate has been changing drastically up and down, especially since COVID. Pre-COVID, nationally and state level, at a very low unemployment rate. We're starting to see those numbers go back to pre-COVID numbers. But right now, as of the February information, the national unemployment rate was 3.6%. And here in Pennsylvania, we're at about 3.9%. So we have a little bit higher unemployment here in Pennsylvania than the nation does. We're definitely not the highest, but we're also not the lowest. So we're kind of right in the middle there with that unemployment piece. And like I said, if you're an employer, you definitely feel that. And depending on where you are in the state, that number can definitely be higher or lower. So one of the things I like to do whenever I talk with people about Department of Corrections is, start seeing everybody's thoughts a little bit and get you thinking a little bit about, whenever you think of someone doing time, what image comes to mind? How do you think they spend their days? What type of person do you imagine? Most of us have probably seen Shawshank Redemption, maybe watch Orange is the New Black, Wentworth, any of those, 90 Days In, whether it's reality or not. And so everybody kind of has their own thoughts on what it means to be doing time and somebody that's in prison. So here might be some of the images that might come to mind. It might not be all of them, but it might be some of them. There's gangs. That does happen. There's exercising. We sometimes think about inmates that are lifting weights, playing basketball, things like that. Or maybe they're just hanging out inside their cell. Or if you want to really get deep, you might have somebody notorious like Charles Manson here. I actually am originally from the state of California, and he was one of our inmates for many years in the Department of Corrections. So a lot of people think about that, are some notorious inmates. So does some of that happen? Yes. But let's talk more about what the reality is inside our state prisons. Inmates have the opportunity for education. There's high school diploma, GED, vocational trainings. We have reentry services, and we have employment services. This isn't everything that's offered. This is just what we're going to talk about today. I'm not even going to get into treatment and other opportunities that inmates are given, since we're just really talking about workforce today. So these are the three things that I'm really going to focus on and share with you what we're doing here in Pennsylvania Department of Corrections. So first, let's do a brief overview. Everything I'm going to talk about and share today is about the state prisons, not county, not federal. There is a difference. There are 24 state correctional institutions, or SCIs, throughout the Commonwealth. And something that is different than county jails usually house inmates that are probably going to be released back to that county. That is not the case for our state prison system. Our inmates are housed based on a whole algorithm of things, whether it's custody level, whether it's their treatment needs, and their age maybe, or their physical or mental health needs. So unfortunately, where they're going to be released to is not really high on that algorithm list of where they're going to be housed. So you could have an inmate housed in one of our Erie prisons, but going to be released to Philadelphia. That is an all, likely it could be a reality. So I'd like to just show the map here so you kind of get an idea of where our prisons are throughout the Commonwealth here. So whenever it comes to workforce and inside the prison, we have a goal and outside. So inside the prison, our goal is to ensure inmates are job ready any step of incarceration, no matter from day one to their last day there. And our goal on the outside is how do we assist employers with their workforce needs and show you the benefits of hiring our population. So those are our goals whenever it comes to workforce. So the first thing we did is we went to find out, what do employers say that they want? Now, I should preface this with, this was pre-COVID. We have not gone back out and did a new survey or document on what they're saying now that they want. So this information is all pre-COVID right now. Some of it is still very true, some more than others, but I just wanted to preface it with that. So employers told us there were three big things that they really wanted, especially from entry-level applicants. The first one was career awareness. What do you actually have to do in an industry? The second one was hands-on experience. Just a little bit, don't really know the difference between a wrench and a hammer. They'll train them mostly, but just have a little bit of hands-on experience. The other thing is soft skills or career readiness skills, how to properly quit a job, how to work with others, how to call off if needed, how to quit a job, how to interview. So those were the sort of things that those were the three big things that employers said that they wanted. So we looked at that, and we looked at what we were doing inside the Department of Corrections to see if we were addressing all three of those. And if not, how can we make sure that we're addressing those? So I'm going to go through and tell you what we do. So inside corrections, and Terry Fazio is on here also, and she is the chief of our corrections education. And, we do offer a variety of educational things. We have GED, Commonwealth Secondary Diploma, school-aged youth, special education. We offer all of those inside the prisons. The other thing that we offer is vocational programs, and I'm going to touch more on this than the other piece. We offer 28 different vocational programs inside our prisons. Now, that's not 28 at every prison. Due to staffing and space, we cannot offer all 28. So every prison has anywhere from like 1 to maybe 4 or 5 of these programs, but we do offer all 28 somewhere inside the prison, inside the Commonwealth. And if you notice, these are all a lot of high priority occupational, vocational programs that we're offering. You've got CDL, you've got auto mechanics, restaurant trades. But let's talk about what we're here today to talk about. We've got carpentry, construction, electricity, electronics, plumbing, masonry, and HVAC. We have a lot of these great building trades vocational programs. And the great thing is they're not just getting a certificate saying, hey, I went through a prison training. They're actually getting nationally accredited certifications with every one of these programs. So through our building trades, they're actually getting OSHA 10, some may get OSHA 30, but they are all getting the NCCER certifications, level 1, some are getting more levels than that. And so they're going through, and like I said, they're not just getting a certification that says, hey, I went through a prison accredited certifications, so they can come to you already trained and with these certifications that you happen to be looking for. So part of what the employers said is knowing what's entailed in a job, know that if you're in construction, you're going to be on a ladder, you're going to be in dirt, you're going to be working in the heat, you're going to be working in the rain, the mud. So one of the things that we did is we created a curriculum. It's called Pathway to Success. And everybody that gets their GED or high school diploma is required to take this class. And anybody that's going into a vocation, we have them go through this class also. What it does is it starts with day 1 of the ONET interest assessment. It's a quick assessment. We've all done the same sort of thing in junior high, high school, pretty much what do you want to be whenever you grow up? They ask you a bunch of questions and they say, hey, based on your answers, these would be the careers that would be of most interest to you. So that is what we do with our inmates. So that way we make sure that if they have an interest in a vocation, it really is an interest and it's not some other reason that they're trying to get into this vocation. We want to make sure that they really do like that work prior to getting into that training. Also in the Pathway to Success, they go through and they understand what job opportunities are available at their county that they're going to be relocating in, see if it is a high priority occupation, is it an occupation that is in need or not, what they can do while they're incarcerated, and they create a plan of what they can do while they're still incarcerated to fulfill the goal, whether it's vocational training, whether it's other education, whether it's work experience. What can they do to reach this goal when they're out to get in this career? So this is an 11 module, 60-hour class. It's one semester. One of the things, a big part of this is, how to address that conviction question. There's interview skills, resumes, cover letters, how to fill out applications. All of that is covered in this class also. If anybody is interested in this curriculum, let me know. We actually developed this using some grant funds a few years ago, and we offer it. If anybody wants to look at it, use it. It's a great curriculum. So if anybody's interested, just let me know and I can send it to them. So the next thing we do is let's get a little bit of that hands-on piece, inmate employment. So all of our prisons are run like little cities. Somebody has to do the cooking, the cleaning, the landscaping, the maintenance. We do have staff that do all of that, but alongside the staff, we have inmate work crews. This is where the inmates can now get that hands-on piece that employers so desperately said that they want somebody to come to them with. So how we do that is having them on the inmate work crews. One of the big things that we do is we actually have it in our policy that if somebody has gone through a vocational program, then our goal is to get them on a work crew doing that vocation. So for instance, if they've gone through our HVAC program, let's get them working alongside our maintenance crew, working on the HVAC systems in the prisons. Plumbing, we've got a lot of toilets in the prison and somebody's got to work on all of them. So we have staff that do that, but they're bringing along the inmate work crew that's getting that experience also. So now I've told you, we have people that have gone through prison that are getting certifications and hands-on experience. They just have a criminal background, but they have two big things that you as an employer may be looking for in an applicant. So we also have what are called correctional industries. We have 19 different correctional industries, and these correctional industries, what they do is they're like little shops inside the prisons. So you'll see some of them over here. We've got laundry, we've got license plates. Yes, inmates do make license plates. There's printing, there's wheel and snowplow refurbishing. If you see some snowplows from PennDOT And there's a big chance that it's very possible that our inmates have worked on those and refurbished them instead of PennDOT purchasing new ones. They send them to us for refurbishing, which is really great. So that's something that we do. I like to share this, and then this is another avenue of inmate employment. So that way you can see that, we do have other inmate employment opportunities. What I'm going to do real fast, I'm going to switch my, oh no, I was going to try to switch screens. That didn't work. All right. So next up, we have reentry. So in reentry, we have reentry service offices in every one of our prisons. What these are these are offices where inmates can go to start getting reentry services prior to release. What that means is, do they need help with home planning? Do they need help looking for employment? Do they need help with family reunification? Do they need, refresher on interviewing skills? Anything that they're looking for whenever it comes to reentry, they can go to the reentry service office. And what we do is we do offer a number of workshops and groups where they can get those services while they're there. And so we don't just do that inside, we also have that outside. So we have reentry parole agents on the inside of the prison that offer this. And then on the outside, we have what are called community reentry parole agents, or CRPAs. And what they do on the outside is a lot of what we do on the inside. So I'll talk in a minute about the CRPAs, but let's just talk about the reentry service offices right now. But one of the things that I do have on here is that once they're released, we currently, as of our January report, we have 32% of our current parolees that are able to work are currently not working. That's a pretty big number of people. There's 7,800 able to work on parole throughout the Commonwealth that are not working. So if you're looking for employees, we have them. So that's always something I like to share with you guys. So next up, I'm going to talk about the inmate resume report. So this is something I just wanted to share with everybody in case this is something you might see. You can always ask a reentrant about it. This is a report that we create, and we do provide to them in certain parts throughout their incarceration. If they don't have a copy of it and they look for a copy of it, you can always reach out to me and I can assist with that. But this resume report has some information on here that's really helpful, maybe for you as an employer or a community provider. It comes up with the first thing that it has is their highest verified level of education. So this is something that our education department has already verified. So if it says that they have a GED through DOC, that's verified. If it says they have a GED or a high school diploma, our department has already gone through and got a copy of it and verified that that is true. So if it's blank, that means that we've never verified it. We cannot say that they have a high school diploma or GED, but if something is listed there, then we have verified that. The next thing that's on here is their initial TABE score. So TABE is the test of adult basic education. This is something that they get done at least at classification when they're first received. Sometimes it's done multiple times throughout their incarceration, but we always have at least their initial TABE. And then we have any additional TABE scores that are offered. So then that way, if they've ever done any additional ones, we have that opportunity to, share that on here. So the reason that could come in handy is that if you're looking to find out if you're doing any additional schooling or training and you need to know what their initial TABE score is, so that way, we have that available on here. So if you don't need to test them again, we do have that. The next thing we have is any trade-based credentials that have been offered or have been earned while they were incarcerated. So this is a great opportunity where you can see if somebody came through and said, hey, I got NCCER in carpentry. It should be listed here. So you can see that it was listed there and what the date was. The final thing that we have on this report is all of their inmate work history. So from the whole time they were incarcerated, we have on here, what did they do? So if they've gone through carpentry, they might say that they worked, as a carpenter, or they did some carpentry work. So that will be listed here also. Back under the trade-based credentials, there may also be some hours listed with some SAIC codes. And that's just where if they worked in plumbing, they might say, oh, we did this in plumbing, if you're familiar with SAIC codes. So the next thing, here's the Community Reentry Parole Agents, or CRPAs. So on the outside, we have these agents. They do not carry a caseload like regular agents. What they do are they are there in the field to assist our reentrants when they're released and anything that they need in the community, whether they need housing, whether they need clothing, whether they need food, do they need help with transportation, employment, childcare, all of that. So these agents are there to help them. Everybody that's released from prison has an orientation with the CRPA, usually within the first week of release, just to kind of go over and say, hey, what are your needs? I'm here. Do you need anything? So that we do offer. And so if you ever talk to a community reentry parole agent, that way you know who they are and what they do. The other thing we do is we do have community correctional centers or halfway houses throughout the state. That is a place where if an inmate is released from prison and they don't have an approved home plan, they might go to one of our centers. And this is a place that they can go, they have housing, and while they're there, they should be looking for jobs and getting work. So then that way they can be saving money and hopefully be getting out of the centers soon and moving on into their own home and in the community. So let's talk briefly about some barriers to employment. And I always like to bring this up with employers because this is something that if there's a barrier on here that you as an employer can assist with, that will better your chances for, opening up that population to come and work for you. So the first big barrier, huge one, transportation. Unfortunately, a lot of our population don't have driver's license or have suspended license, or they might not even have access to a vehicle. So they really rely heavily on public transportation or bus or walking. And in some of our rural areas here in Pennsylvania, they either don't have public transportation or they might not have access or the ability to walk or bike to work in certain weather conditions and things like that. So you definitely, need to keep that in mind. So if there's a way that you can help at all with transportation, with our population, we would greatly appreciate that and can talk about ways to do that, whether that's carpooling, whether that's a buddy system or a mentoring system, whether that's offering transportation tokens, anything like that, then, we're always open to other ways to help. The next thing is childcare. A lot of people face this challenge and this barrier, especially during COVID. What do we do with our kids while we're working if childcare is closed? Well, with our population, if you go back to the transportation piece, if they have kids that need to go to childcare, they not only have to worry about the transportation to get to work, but now they got to get their kids to childcare or to school. How do they do that? Not only is there a cost factor of the childcare, but it's that transportation piece too. So I know that Pennsylvania has been looking more into the childcare issues that have been going on and how they can help with that and how employers can hopefully assist with that. Another big one is identification. So in order to work, as an employer, you need to have your I-9 documents. You need your social security card and your photo ID. Usually that starts with the birth certificate. So here's one of the things that we do offer in Department of Corrections. Again, we're talking state, not county. County, unfortunately, doesn't have the luxury of time like we do with our inmate population. We do have agreements with Social Security Administration and PennDOT to obtain Social Security cards and photo identification or their duplicate driver's license prior to release. We also pay for any birth certificates that inmates need, regardless of the state that they're from, to start that process. So we've had some really big changes lately where we're paying more for those items so we can reduce that barrier. So more and more of our inmates from the state are coming out with the proper identification that they need, but we still have some that might have that barrier that they weren't able to obtain it. Some of those are due to, it starts with that birth certificate piece of it. And if they don't know the information they need on their birth certificate, then they can't get the birth certificate. And all the documents start with that first document. The other thing is we do have some issues with a few of the other states where they don't allow inmates to have birth certificates. Puerto Rico does not allow inmates to have birth certificates. So if any of our inmates were born in Puerto Rico, we cannot get their birth certificates to start the identification process. So just know that there are some of those challenges. But on the plus side, the majority of our inmates are coming out with identification. And the last one is housing. A lot of people, just like employers, don't want to hire people that were formerly incarcerated. A lot of rental agencies or landlords don't want people living in their homes. So housing is a huge barrier to employment. And if you don't have those basic needs of housing, shelter, clothing, they're just going to turn around and recidivate and go right back to prison because they need those basic needs. So next up, why? Let's talk about why we're all here today. I've been yammering on here now for 25 minutes or so, 20 minutes, and let's get to the why behind this. What can we do for you, and why are you guys all on this today? So we have a great video that was recently done from one of our building trades programs out at SCI Huntington. And I'm going to show this video. It's a 2-minute video, and it's going to give some great information on what they do out there in our building trades. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. And Terry, I know you're on here. If you can shoot me a text that lets me know that you guys can hear this, that would be fantastic.
It's the start of the house.
Hang on.
Complete to the end. So they do masonry, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, painting, decorating, drywall, and then do all your framing aspects of framing the house. And then they get into roofing, siding, and stuff like that. So from the beginning to the end, from the first nail or first piece of dirt dug until the last nail put in the house, they know how to do it at that point. So we get everything from the guy that's never touched a tool, doesn't even know what the hammer is, clear down to guys that's had 10 years trade experience. My teacher's aide, he probably has 15 years worth of construction experience, so he does a good job at talking to the guys, you know, trying to help those guys out. And then he'll stop and work with math and stuff like that. So some guys don't have any previous experience with the construction field, and they're not used to using the tape measure and stuff like that. We kind of pull those guys off the side and work with them, try to build them up to where they need to be, try to catch them up with the class. It's a tough 1 year. I mean, it's condensed down, so I expect a lot of the guys to do a lot of work outside, so I call it homework. So I'll give them a project to do outside of it, so where they're here, they're working in the lab, and we do little class time here, but we try to make sure we get a lot of stuff done as far as the class work, learning how to bid jobs and how to start a business and do everything else that way. Once they're released, most of the guys, you consider them a laborer getting started, but they have a little bit of knowledge on what the next guy's doing. So like when you do a carpenter or a foreman or something like that. So as they're moving forward, or they're getting some experience on the street, they can start moving up the ranks too and start making a little more money. You know, doing the bids and stuff like that, to me is important, because if they want to start their own business, or a lot of guys will work on the side. The construction industry is known for working on the side. So as they start gathering tools, they can start performing work for somebody else and doing little side jobs here and there, start wasting money, start making some more money, and start making it better for themselves.
All right. So one of the things that I do want to point out with whatever it, oh, hang on, let me pause this real fast. There we go. One of the things I wanted to point out is when they were talking about the tools, that's another challenge or barrier that our population may have whenever it comes to this industry. Our inmates are not released with tools from their trade. So that is something that, you know, as an employer, it takes a lot of money and time to build up that toolbox. So that is something that if there's a way that you can assist with that, then that might really help out this population too. I just wanted to point that out. But I hope that gave a little bit of an insight there into what we do, at least at one of our prisons, for our construction trades. It was a great little video. I know that we were putting it on social media last month, I believe, and that's the first time I've seen it, was today. And I thought it was perfect for this presentation. So let's talk a little bit more. This is more of the why. What are some benefits of hiring a reentrant? So some that we've already talked about, but you guys have supportive parole. You know, as an employer, you have a buddy almost with a parole agent, whether it's the field agents or the community reentry parole agents. Now, when you think of parole, they're not going to come in SWAT gear on your job site, with, vests and everything. They're actually really low key. They try not to disrupt work. They try actually not to come onto the job site and work at all. They don't want to disrupt the reentrants work or the employers. So they try not to do that. But if they need to, they're not going to come in and make a scene and announce, hey, parole's here. They just don't do that. You'll get an experienced and trained workforce. This is something we already talked about. Like I said, they're going through the education. They're going through employment while they're incarcerated in that field. So you can get somebody that's already experienced and trained. They just have a criminal background. Then there's two other things. There's the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, or WOTC. That's a tax credit that you as an employer that hire this population are eligible for. And then there's something that's called federal bonding. Federal bonding is 100% free. That is something that you as an employer for hiring a reentrant, you can apply for. It's a 5-10 minute phone call with this great gentleman named Greg Shirk out of Harrisburg. And the bond actually covers for the first 6 months of hiring the reentrant. It covers up to $5,000 of any theft or damage. It's an instantaneous bond. There's no premium. There's no deductible. And like I said, it's instantaneous for the first 6 months. If you need it beyond the 6 months, you can request it for longer, but usually it's just for those first 6 months. And this is those two things are very underutilized, and it's free to you as an employer. So one of the things that I wanted to mention here is we do have public employers, and I have Flagler Force on here because I know Shay Swerver was on here also. And I know that Josh Strickler from Diplomat Demolition's on here. So we do have some employers, and at the end, I might reach out to a couple of them at the end and kind of see about their experiences. But just for time wise, I want to go ahead and finish the presentation, and then we might come back and talk to them a little bit. But that's one of the things, is that I do not publicize who I work with as far as an employer goes, unless we have the approval of you as the employer. But Flagler Force is one of our public partners, so we do go through and do that. So let's do a quick recap with them. What's in it for me? You, I should say. What's in it for you as an employer? Well, like we said, experienced candidate. They might have industry certifications, have a dedicated worker, longer employee retention. That is huge with this population. Once you've given them a chance, they're really not likely to leave your company. They want to stay with you. They're going to work hard, very dedicated hard workers. There's the tax credit, the bonding, and then you get to help reduce recidivism and taxpayer dollars. That's always a big thing too, as a taxpayer. Keeping them out of prison is big. That helps save taxpayer money. So I've done all this stuff, trying to talk with you guys, share all this information. Hopefully, if maybe you were at a yes or a maybe or a no before, hopefully I got you guys to yes. If not, tell me what I can do to get you to yes, to work with this population. But let's talk really fast next steps. What do we need to do? Well, the first thing you need to do if you're interested in moving forward, contact me. Shoot me an email. I will work with you to find out what your job openings are, what you're looking for in an employee. I will get that information in the hands of our staff that are working with our population looking for jobs. So it's just a phone call with me. So send me an email. You can always reach out to me or Terry Fazio. I loop her in whenever it comes to anything with our vocational trades. If you want to talk about the curriculum that we offer and you want to make sure that it lines up with what you're looking for, the certifications, touring, talking with our instructors, let me know, and I can connect you guys with that too. And another thing that you can do to get in your communities, that we have reentry coalitions. Over half of the counties in Pennsylvania have reentry coalitions. That is something that the counties there, you can connect with the county jails, other county resources, other employees in your county that are working already, second chance employers. So getting with your reentry coalitions, and if you need to know who that is and where that is in your county, let me know. I can help with that. I did forget to say at the beginning, I cover the whole state of Pennsylvania. So anywhere that you have jobs in Pennsylvania, I would be that contact for you. So I did forget to mention that before. The last thing is reentry job fairs. Every year, Terry's shop puts on reentry job fairs at least once a year. And that's an opportunity where employers can come in and do a job fair and actually talk with the inmates that are 12 months or less to release, getting out in the community. As I said before, our inmates could be coming from any of the prisons to any of our counties. So if you would like to go to any of our job fairs throughout the Commonwealth, let me know. I can send you an email that has the list of where they're at and what the dates are coming up. We have a number of them coming up soon. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. So I'm going to go to questions first, and then we'll open it up to Shay and Josh. But any questions?
Do you offer work release?
We do not. Thank you for asking that. That is one of our big differences whenever it does come to county versus state. County jails offer work release, the state does not. So if you need any connections with those county jails, let me know, because I do have the connections for the county jails throughout Pennsylvania if you need to connect with them. But we do not offer work release. Great question.
When someone is re-entering and they say they used to be a plumber or they are a plumber, do they get their certification back right away to be a certified plumber again?
You mean if they had it prior to coming into prison?
Yes.
So they didn't earn the certification through us, they had it.
No, they had it.
So I'm not sure. Yeah, that I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That is something that probably our community reentry parole agents would work with them on and help them. They would probably send them to our local career links. We work really closely with the PA career link systems. And that would probably be something that they would be able to help them with. Yeah. Any other questions?
So we're located in Westchester, and we run about a 60-mile radius. So we work in New Jersey and Delaware. Mm-hmm. And when you were going through the presentation, you said that the parole officers are more inclined to be less involved, or I'm not sure how you put it, but that is not mm-hmm. my experience.
Really?
It has been exceedingly difficult with getting approval for the guys to understand our work area and approve people to go out of state. Okay. There's also been tons of incidences where they call last minute and say that they want to do an inspection. And then, I have somebody who is scheduled to be at a job site and they are, forced to stay home, and they miss a whole day of work, and my crew mm-hmm. is slighted, and it's terrible.
So I can tell you that is something that if it's state parole, let me know when that happens. And if that happens and who that is, because that is not our normal operating procedure. I cannot talk for county probation parole, but state, we do not do that. If they are required to stay home, and if you want to verify that, that's where I say that the agent can be like your best friend. It's a great support system. But our goal is to not impede their employment. If they're working, we want to do everything we can to make sure that they're getting to work and they're going to work and not keeping them back. So if things like that come up, we actually, and I'll use Flagler Force as an example, we had, they had an employee who was a great employee, and they were looking to terminate him because he had called off because he said that he was at the center and one of our community correctional centers, and they held him back and they wouldn't give him his phone to let them know. And it was this whole thing, and it didn't sound quite right. So they reached out to me. I did a little digging and found out it was exactly what happened, which is not supposed to have happened in our centers. So we had to go and make that correction, and it saved that guy's job just because Flagler Force reached out to us and said, hey, this doesn't sound right. Can you verify that this is really what happened? So there may be times that, and I hate to say this, but they might be saying that they're being held back and they don't really, maybe they just want the day off or something and they're using parole as an excuse. But that is usually not our experience and our operating procedure. And if you do have that with a state parolee or a state agent, please email me and I will get to the bottom of that for you. As far as the travel passes, that really, there's a lot that goes into giving a travel pass. It depends on what their parole conditions are and their parole stipulations are. And it really is up to the agent, but it's also up to the parolee to work with their agent and make sure they're giving them enough time, enough information. So if you're having issues with any of that, with any of our Pennsylvania state parolees, let's talk. And we can definitely get that remedied for you.
Yeah, I have trouble getting through to the people that I hire.
Email me.
Situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Email
well,
email me. I can work with you.
I don't know if it's federal or county or I don't.
Yeah, if they're if you let me know who the employees are, I can look them up and see if they're on our state parole. But I can definitely tell you that is not how we operate at the state. And if you are finding that is the case, we're gonna get that fixed. And so let me know. Any other questions?
Dorenda, I have 3 questions. What a shock.
Sure.
But I think that they're going to be quick ones. So my first one is, when they are working inside of the prison in that work history that would ultimately be on their resume, are those applicable towards on-the-job training hours for an apprenticeship program or anything like that?
So if you're talking about whenever it comes to like through the career link, those on the OJT? Or
No, so like
through,
inside of the prison, inside of the prison, if they worked, are those applicable for OJT?
So I'm not 100% sure, but I can tell you we do not, at this time, we are not doing apprenticeships inside the prisons. We're looking to change that. And if anybody has apprenticeships that they want to do, let me know, because there are—
Girl, that's my goal.
Well, there's challenges. We have an apprenticeship starting at Rockview out at our farm. So we can talk and see what else we can do. We just have our biggest challenges whenever it comes to apprenticeships is if you have a curriculum that can be taught, it must be taught by our staff. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the biggest thing is our staff have to teach it. We can't have outside staff come in and teach the curriculum, and that's due to contract language and contract issues. But if you have an apprenticeship and want to work with us, we would love to do apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships. We just have to work through that challenge. And we can definitely talk about that. But as far as it going to OJT, I'm going to say no, just because we don't have any pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship stuff right now.
Out of that 32% of those parolees that are now available and could be working, do you know, I mean, is the rate of recidivism much higher because they essentially can't get work and so they are, so that is occurring? Has that been your experience?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure. I know that we just did a recidivism report. I don't know if anybody saw that or not. We released it a couple months ago. I have not fully read it, so there might be something in there that talks about that, but I can tell you unemployment is definitely a big thing whenever it comes to recidivating, because if they're not working and they don't have money, what are they going to do? They need to get money. They need to feed their kids. They need to feed themselves. They're going to resort back to a life of crime, unfortunately. So yes, unemployment is a big factor whenever it does come to recidivism. Is there data on that? I'm not sure if that was in the report or not, but I can just tell you from our experience, yes. Yeah.
And then my final question goes to kind of the legality surrounding equal employment opportunities. So if we are looking at job descriptions specifically within the construction market, and we're saying, okay, based off of the crime in which you were convicted, we do not find you to be an acceptable candidate for this. Is there some sort of a guideline or something like that? Or do we just kind of take the job description and go from there?
So I can tell you what I do. Whenever I talk to employers and I ask about the jobs that you have open, one of the big questions I ask is there any convictions that you cannot or will not hire for? Because I want to make sure that I'm getting the job information in the hands of the right parolees. We don't want to send you someone if you can't hire somebody that has arson conviction, then if you tell me that, then we can put in there, hey, we can't have somebody with arson, and then our staff know not to give it to any of their caseload that has an arson conviction. You definitely need to watch that EEOC. I know that there's a big thing whenever it comes to, oh, well, that stigma of, oh, well, we don't want to hire because of this, and we all have our personal feelings or whatever, and wanting to make sure that we're keeping our employees safe and all of that. Unfortunately, the law is that if their crime does not directly affect the job duty and the work, you can't consider that. And that's the law. You just can't. And a perfect example is I had somebody on parole. He worked for, and I'm going to call them out. It was at Hershey, of all places, Hershey. And he worked there for 2 years, I believe, right around 2 years. He worked in a manufacturing plant where you had to be 21 and older to even walk into the building. And after 2 years, they said that they did a random check, found out he was a registered sex offender, and fired him. They gave him a severance and everything because they felt so bad about it. But they said that it was their policy. And I said, they can't do that. I said, your crime had nothing to do. And like, you're not in, he literally worked on a production, in a factory. There were no tours. There was nobody under the age of 21, even in the fact it had nothing. And I think his crime, he was one of those that I think he was like 19 and had like a 16 or 17-year-old girlfriend, in high school. So it had nothing to do with his crime at all. But that is what the company used to get rid of him. Even though they felt so bad, they gave him a severance and stuff. And I told him to go contact the EEOC office. That's what I told him. Yeah. I said, because they can't do that. That's against the law. But as an employee, as an employer, I know that that's one of the biggest challenges that employers do face is, other employees, how are they going to react to being a second chance employer? How are our customers going to react to it? My response is usually, do you know, like right now, how many people do we have on this? We have 13 people right now on this call. I have no idea how many, if any of them, have ever been convicted of a crime. I have no idea. No, if I go to Giant and go grocery shopping, I have no idea if the person at the cashier is a reentrant. I have no idea. You don't know who. I could be, a reentrant. You could be a reentrant. You don't go around and say, hey, have you been to prison? I've been to prison. Have you been to prison? You don't do that. And that's what we kind of tell employees and employers is, just it's not really anybody's business, to tell you the truth.
And I don't want to belabor the point, but I do think that why that becomes increasingly tricky within the construction industry is that some of those crimes are kind of like on the edge, right? So let's use arson because that's the example that you used. So yes, for an electrician, maybe that would be on the list, right?
Absolutely.
And they're,
Absolutely.
and
Yep.
The same thing might be true of even a drug offense, given the fact that they might drive company vehicles or do that kind of thing. So I think that's where I think there's a hang up a little bit when we're trying to create that list that I would potentially give you. First of all, I don't know all of the crimes. I'm sorry to be ignorant, but like I just don't know them all enough to like strike them. And then the other thing would be, making sure that we aren't overly eliminating, but then making sure that we're also being considerate to all of the varied levels that happen within it, that this specific industry sector.
Okay. So yeah, and I think as an employer, one of the best ways that I usually offer is to let you know that you can always do it on a case-by-case basis. And that's what a lot of employers tell me is, you know what, either we're not 100% sure which ones to do. Like you said, you don't know all the crimes. They just say it's going to be on a case-by-case basis, or there might be some real specific ones that for sure these, but others would be on a case-by-case, and that is completely fine.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Great questions. Any other questions? And maybe what I'll do is I'll ask Shay. I saw Is she?
Yeah.
She's still on here. Hey, Shay, from an employer, do you want to give like 1 or 2 minutes, because I know we're running out of time here, 1 or 2 minutes just as an employer, if you want to do maybe what your experience has been or to address any of those challenges as Flagger Force?
Yeah, well, I'll follow up on the background. We do assess every applicant on an individual basis, so we don't exclude any specific convictions, and I think that would be great for every employer to do. And we really do assess each individual on whether it's going to have a business impact. So for example, if there are individuals that apply that have been convicted of certain crimes that would restrict them from certain proximity to schools or from crossing county or state lines, because our job is so mobile and we're changing, where our job sites within a day even, it would just cause a business impact on how we kind of allocate and move around our resources. So that's an example of in a case where maybe someone that has travel restrictions would create a business impact. And then what we've started doing years ago is providing internal transportation support services. So we have a large vehicle fleet. Luke's on here, who's our VP of Safety and Risk and Training. How many trucks do we have, Luke? I don't know if he can unmute.
You put me on the spot there. I wasn't ready.
How many?
I'm sorry, 1,000 pickup trucks. We have just shy 989, and it changes day to day because we add and lose some, but just shy of 1,000 pickup trucks.
Yeah. So what we've tried to do is everyone that has a company pickup truck, pair them with someone that needs transportation support. So we do get a lot of applicants that, don't have a driver's license, don't have a personal vehicle. And our goal is to pair someone that is in a vehicle truck with someone that needs that transportation support. I mean, so that could double your workforce. If we have almost 1,000 trucks and we can bring on, there's 1,000, assume each truck has one driver, and then there's enough room for another person. So that's 1,000 people we could bring on. So we have tried to start pairing that. And then we also offer incentives for those individuals because they're offering that ride to try to incentivize them.
Oh, very good. Thank you. And then Josh, I want to give you an opportunity, like 1 or 2 minutes. Also, do you have I've heard that you are a second chance employer also, and we've talked about that. Do you have any success stories or anything that you would like to share that was beneficial as an employer that you would like to share with other employers?
I mean, I think all the other, certainly Flagger Force knows that the comment about the retention is definitely true. People are very receptive to getting an opportunity, so they do tend to hang around a lot more. I currently have 3 employees that started on a work release program from Montgomery County who have now been with me almost 5 years. One of them is a foreman, so they take advantage and excel, and it is a higher percentage than people off the street for success, I think, because our retention company wide is about 10%, and I think from both the work release program and from working with Impact Services in Philadelphia, our retention from those 2 programs is probably closer to 30%, maybe. So,
oh wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Definitely transportation, from my perspective, is the highest issue. It's the biggest problem. Getting people to get driver's license, getting them to have enough money to afford a vehicle, that's a big hurdle. We used to run everybody out of our shop in the morning, and then the Department of Labor decided that we cannot provide people a ride without paying them port to port. So then it became the employee's responsibility to get the jobs. So that was a gigantic hurdle. Because we're located in a college town, so we had a lot of college kids that would come over, and it was great. They would hop in a truck, they would go to work, and then some kind of red tape or fine print said that we can't do that. It was pretty disappointing, but
yeah, that's great to hear though about the retention that I'm not just throwing that out there, that you guys actually experience that. So that's what I say it based on what other employers say. So that's fantastic. Thank you. And thank you guys both for being second chance employers. And any issues that you have, if you have any issues with any of the state agents, parole, any of that stuff, please reach out to me and let me know. Anyone else have any other questions before I hand it back over to Seth? Because it is 1:59. I'll hand it to you, Seth. Thank you guys very much.
Yes, I'd like to thank everyone, the DOC and the employers, Flyer Force and Diplomat Demolition. Couldn't get it out right. And I really appreciate the feedback from the state and some employers coming together and talking about some of the positives and some of the things that could be better. But I see a lot of positive virtue in this viable workforce. So with that being said, Keystone Contractors Association appreciates everyone joining us today. And with that, we'll end the meeting.
Great. Thank you guys so very much. And once you have the recording, will you please send it my way?
Absolutely. We'll send the recording to everybody.
All right, great. Thank you so very much.
Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.